Episode 5, Inbound 25, Science, Creativity, Imagination, and the AI Revolution.
Welcome to the Art of Marketing Science, and I'm Julian Stubbs, here with my co-conspirator, Robert England.
Thank you, Julian. And can I hear that you have a cold?
Yes, I came down with the dreaded lurgy a day ago, but in the Stubbs tradition, I'm battling on, albeit remotely from you, Rob.
Yes, thank you, Julian. I appreciate that. And battling is a good word, as today we're talking about revolutions. Not the kind where you throw bombs at the palace, but the kind that sneak up on you, knock over entire industries, and leave you wondering what just happened.
Exactly, and I've just been at HubSpot's Inbound 25 conference in San Francisco, where AI and large language models, or LLMs as we call them, were front and center and driving this new technological revolution. Should we all fear for our jobs? Will a malevolent how AI destroy us all? Well, actually, one of the things that rather shocked me recently, I was with a bunch of millennials. I made reference to HAL and AI. And they had no idea what I was talking about. So, everyone listening, if you don't understand the HAL reference, sit down after the podcast and watch 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. It's a brilliant film, although it was made in the late 1960s.
2001 is one of my all-time favorites too. I'm entranced by Arthur C. Clarke, and then it's got Stanley Kubrick, who actually has directed it, so you get a double whammy. Anyway, how was San Francisco?
It was a really fantastic week. And as you know, great restaurants. I ate at some amazing places, diverse cuisines, visited the De Young Museum in Golden Gate Park to take in the Paul McCartney photographic exhibition. And no small detail, I got to ride in a driverless taxi.
Really? I've always wanted to do that. Sounds fantastic. How was it?
So, no driver. I think just me in the back seat trying not to hum the Beatles' Help under my breath. But actually, after a couple of minutes, you get really comfortable with it. Better than an Uber driver racing to get to his next fare. So, I'm actually a big fan of them.
So was it a Waymo?
I tried Waymo, which is the self-driving taxi that comes from Google, but I also tried a Zoox, which my oldest son, who lives in San Francisco, actually works on as a software engineer. And it was just a revolutionary experience, which segues nicely into today's topic, Rob, revolutions, and specifically revolutions in marketing and AI.
I'm glad we're on subject. Exactly. Now, you and I have been calling this moment a revolution, and revolutions aren't new. We've had 3 incredibly important scientific figures to touch on today. So let's take a step back in time, and I'll kick us off with Charles Babbage, the man who dreamt up the first automatic mechanical calculator, which he called the difference engine, in the 1820s. In effect, the first computing machine. You cranked a handle on his difference engine, the gears moved, and a number from the calculation was displayed. The difference engine number 2 was built 170 years later in 1991, and it's on display in London's Science Museum. And this oily, smelly, geared machine makes a lot of noise during its operation, and you need some serious muscle to operate it.
I've seen one, Rob. They've also got one in the Computer History Museum in near San Jose. So, incredible piece of kit. But I wondered, is that where the phrase number crunching comes from?
Close. And actually, the phrase number crunching was first coined more than 100 years later in the 1960s because the merchant mechanical calculators of the day made a lot of noise. I can still hear the sound in my head from my mum's office in Hong Kong that they were running. So Babbage made a stage further and invented a generalized machine called the Analytical Engine in 1837, and it would be programmable for various tasks. Babbage wrote in his Passages from the Life of a Philosopher that if his analytical engine were built, the whole of the developments and operations of analysis are now capable of being extracted or executed by machinery. As soon as an analytical engine exists, it will necessarily guide the future course of science. And how prescient that statement was. So while the difference engine was able to calculate finite differences, the analytical engine had an arithmetic logic unit, or ALU, the one that you have in the computers of today, which he called the mill. It also had control flow in the form of conditional branching and loops, and memory, which he called the store. You can hear the language of the first industrial revolution in his choice of words. In other words, it had all the basics of today's computers. The analytical engine itself was never built in Babbage's lifetime because of lack of ambition, funding disputes, and the engineering limits that stopped it. Yet its design anticipated a general-purpose programmable computer. So Babbage wasn't just imagining a calculator, he was inventing the programmable computer. His metaphor shows he wasn't predicting a machine we already knew. He was inventing the very idea of computing through analogy. And that's an amazing act of creation, coming straight out of his imagination.
Yes, and working with him, I think, was a real revolutionary in many ways. Ada Lovelace. She was the real star in my book. Babbage saw a calculator. She saw a whole future of the application of computers beyond mathematical calculations. She wrote that his machine could manipulate not just numbers, but symbols, even create music.
Exactly. She was inspired by Charles Babbage's thoughts, picked up where he left off, and went well beyond. Ada Lovelace didn't imagine the engine merely as a powerful calculator. As she put it, supposing that the engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree of complexity or extent. She saw early on that computation could go beyond arithmetic into art and beauty. And quite poetically, she said that the analytical engine weaves algebraic patterns just as the Jacquard loom weaves flowers and leaves. She used metaphor as a communication tool for creating a vision of the future that ordinary people could grasp.
Now, we've always said we need more female scientists, and that was just a brilliant impersonation of that anyway. Which actually is so important when you're marketing a new idea, isn't it, Rob?
Absolutely. The idea of being able to explain it to people. She made an extraordinary leap. She was articulating that symbolic logic could apply to art, to music, and beyond. And in that sense, she wasn't forecasting a revolution. She was creating one in her own words. One of the most moving tributes of Ada Lovelace is the naming of a programming language after her.
Now, that's what you'd call poetic justice.
Indeed. And very interestingly, Ada's father was none other than Lord Byron, the romantic poet. Imagine that household. Dad writing about passion and scandal, daughter creating algorithms.
Exactly. Lord Byron was so notorious for his affairs and scandals that he was described by Lady Caroline Lamb at the time, one of his many lovers, as mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Almost sounds like you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Julian. I sincerely take that as a compliment.
Anyway, his behaviour was so scandalous that by 1816 he was effectively forced into exile from England, never to return. I believe he died in Greece. It's almost poetic in itself, this fusion of art and science. And then we fast forward to another scientific genius, Alan Turing, I guess in the early 1940s at Bletchley Park, Rob.
Yes, Alan Turing was instrumental in the Allied effort to break the Enigma cipher system. He co-designed the bomb machine, which was built on crucial Polish work. But more importantly, for our theme of today, is that Alan Turing asked the ultimate question: can machines think? In his 1950 paper called Computing Machinery and Intelligence, Turing wrote, instead of trying to produce a program to simulate the adult mind, why not rather try to produce one which simulates the child's? Now that's a mind-bending idea, because he's not just speculating about AI, He's laying down its founding philosophy, a machine that can learn. He knew imagination was a creative act, not just a predictive one. And in his 1950 paper, Computing, Machinery and Intelligence, where he proposed what we now call the Turing test, he effectively set the stage for all debates on AI that we're still having today. So later in the same paper, he predicted that at the end of the century, educated opinion will have altered so much that one will be able to speak of machines thinking without expecting to be contradicted. He wasn't just speculating, he was laying groundwork for a shift in how we as a society might think of technology. So, from Babbage's imaginative gears to Lovelace's programming imagination to Turing's code breaking and imagining of AI as machines with learning and intelligence, there's a theme here. Humans are imagining more than what the world thinks is possible.
Your Turing impersonation is like having Benedict Cumberbatch in the room. But
Thank you. I live for these moments.
Yes, the Inbound 25, it really did feel like the latest chapter. And actually, of all the Inbound events I've attended a few, it really did feel like this is a moment that's going to change things. The same pattern repeated. But Rob, before we jump into HubSpot's Inbound 25, can we first get a good description of how LLMs are really sourcing their information to give us all those brilliant answers?
Okay, so here comes an explainer. Well, traditional search engines like Google work by crawling and indexing billions of web pages. So when you type in a query, the search engine matches keywords to that index and ranks results using algorithms based on relevance, authority, and backlinks. The outcome is the familiar list of 10 blue links that you get on a Google search engine results page, often accompanied by ads at the top. The user then has to click through, compare, and piece together their own answer. So large,
Rob, on that point,
yeah,
just so I get my clarification, so we're doing all the work. We get a page of hits, 10 blue links,
yeah,
but then we have to do the work. Yep.
that's right. That's a very good point that you made. There's a level of judgment on our side to process that. So large language models take a leap ahead of that. So LLMs like ChatGPT or Perplexity, they take a very different approach. So instead of pointing you to sources, they generate a direct, fluent response. They do this by predicting the next most likely word in a sequence based on patterns learned from vast amounts of text data. And you can imagine how much text data they must consume to be able to do that, to perform. So in practice, it feels like having a knowledgeable assistant who can synthesize information, explain it in plain language, and tailor the response to your exact question.
It's like having you in the room with me.
Well, exactly. I mean, the comparison is uncanny. The trade-off is important. While LLMs provide speed and clarity and a natural conversational style, they don't know in the same way humans do. They generate outputs based on probability, which means they can sometimes, hallucinate.
Yes, and I think we've all experienced that sort of wacky answers. Makes it seems like the AI bot is on some kind of wacky backy, as it were. Anyway, thanks, Rob. So this shift from searching to receiving answers is why many believe we're moving from search engine optimization, SEO, which we've been working with forever, into answer engine optimization, AEO. But more on that later.
Yes. So what were the big takeaways from Inbound 25 in San Francisco? You told me that on a philosophical level, it was about the future of work, a topic that you and I are very interested in. And you said the future of work is going to be about asking the right questions?
Yes, the future belongs to question askers, not answer givers. Now, that sounds like a bit of an odd description, but let me explain. I met the founder of Perplexity, one of the big large language models or LLMs everyone is now using. His name was Arvind Srinivas, and he put it perfectly. Answers are now cheap. They're almost a commodity. We can all get them. AI can generate them instantly. What matters is really framing the right questions. I mean, that's going to be the skill of the future.
So what? Curiosity is the new productivity.
Exactly. A vague prompt gets you a vague output. A thoughtful, detailed question gets you something much more valuable. It's like Lovelace. She didn't ask, what does this machine do? She asked, what could it become?
Wow, that sounds very Beatles to me. Lennon didn't just ask, what's happening now? He asked, imagine all the people. It's the boldness of the question that changes things.
Very true. And in marketing, the bold question is what sets you apart. Learn to ask the right questions.
Wow. Okay. So your second point that you said, we have a bit to cover here. Firstly, SEO and AEO that you mentioned. I've spent 20 years trying to get websites of our clients onto page one of Google. Are you telling me that that was all for nothing?
Not for nothing, but the rules are changing. As you said earlier, instead of 10 blue links, you now often get one answer or recommendation. And just a little statistic to throw in there, we're already seeing about 50% of all searches going through LLMs.
Well,
So immediately that volume that went to Google actually is now being split. So answer engine optimization, or AEO, now becomes the big focus. So how do we ensure that the answer we want listed will appear in an LLM search?
wow. So if you're not in that one answer, you are invisible. That's a bit terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and that's really what I think a lot of clients and marketing companies are trying to get their heads around at the moment. So the challenge becomes, how do you make sure the AI trusts you, cites you, includes you, and there's some surprising answers, I think, in some ways coming up later.
Okay. So that sounds interesting, but does this mean that our old favorite websites will go the way of vinyl records? Which is sad because I love my vinyl collection. In fact, I was just thinking about buying a new Lynn Sondek LP12. So if anybody wants to contribute to my fund, I'm very, I'd welcome you in honor of my albums. But back to marketing. I'm going to ask the right question. Are websites the new dinosaurs? And what does this mean for B2B brands in which, where life science brands actually exist?
Well, one of the most interesting debates at Inbound 25 was about whether websites themselves would disappear as a
Hmm.
sales channel. So let's look at this. So for B2C, the shift feels more plausible. So if an LLM recommends a pair of trainers or headphones, you might buy them instantly through a connected marketplace without ever clicking through to the brand's own website. Okay, I've done it myself.
Hmm.
B2B, I think, is different. And as Suzanne Conkle, CMO of Deloitte, pointed out, high value, complex B2B purchases will always demand a certain amount of due diligence. Clients will want to dig deeper into the brand's website, its case studies, its technical specifications, probably before committing to a six-figure deal or a multi-year contract. I mean, you're probably not signing a six-figure contract because ChatGPT made a recommendation, are you?
No.
So I think you'll still want proof. So some discussion and probably some haggling.
Okay, good point. I can see that. Makes sense. So that means we're saved. B2B marks its business as normal.
Unfortunately, not by a long way.
Mm.
What this means is that B2B brands can't afford to lag behind B2C in sophistication. Their websites must be more than just digital brochures, which is, I think, what a lot of companies have always done. They just put their brochure on the website as a digital interface. They need to be very highly integrated with CRMs, marketing automation, deep content ecosystems, and analysis. They must answer the complex questions that validate a purchase long after an LLM has made the initial introduction.
So websites survive, but they become credibility engines rather than discovery engines?
Yeah, exactly. A bit of both. And interestingly, websites will really have to cope with two very different audiences because of that. So there's the human audience, the people who will actually, after a recommendation, maybe go to the website, go through it, look at case studies and everything else. But then they're also having to cater for the digital audience, the LLMs,
Mm.
who will be scraping them so things actually get more complex for brands and companies. They don't get simpler.
Okay, so Julian, second big item on this section, HubSpot has been talking a lot about their new Loop marketing playbook. So most of us are used to the traditional inbound funnel. You raise awareness of your offering, of your company. You get to a consideration stage where clients are looking for options and comparing you to others. And then the buyer finally comes to a purchase decision. It's worked for years, but it's linear and it assumes the journey ends once somebody buys. So what's the real difference here?
Yes, the traditional inbound funnel is still there as phases. I mean, we all go through, but HubSpot has introduced the loop, and that's different. It's circular and built around 4 phases that you go through: express, tailor, amplify, evolve. Each stage feeds the next, so the relationship really never stops. It's a continuum, and I know you love that word.
Oh, continuum. I do. I love a good old space-time continuum. And I've seen the HubSpot symbol. It looks like an infinity sign, which I also love. So 4 stages. Can you walk me through them one by one?
Absolutely. So first up, express. And this is really all about making your voice heard, not just cranking out generic blog posts, but really defining and showing who you are, what you stand for. In life sciences, that could mean explaining the science behind your product in a very human way, or taking a stand on sustainability in biotech, to cut through the noise by being clear, bold, and authentic and standing for something.
Right. So less corporate wallpaper, more this is what we believe in.
This is what we believe, this is what we're about. Next comes tailor. So once you've been through express, you've expressed your big idea, now you adapt it to its different target audiences. And again, this isn't new to inbound and marketing automation, but they've taken it a step further. So you need to tailor that material and content to the researcher, the clinician, say a procurement manager. They all need a similar story, but told in different ways and appropriate ways, with maybe some different information added. So maybe it's a technical white paper for the scientist, a short animation for the clinician, and a webinar to procurement. So same message, but different lenses.
Right. Stay relevant for the audience, what makes sense for them. So life sciences audiences, as we know, are very picky. If you don't speak their language, if you're not credible to them, you lose them.
Exactly. And then comes that third phase, amplify. And I think that's actually where it gets quite exciting. Great content dies when you hide it away, dies in a drawer. You need to get it out there. That means promotion, partnerships, PR, social campaigns. In life sciences, it means journals, conferences, LinkedIn, podcast, the channels where credibility lives. Amplify is how you scale reach without losing depth.
Wow. And it seems as if marketers will need to be doing more of everything to get the attention of the LLMs. So not less is more, but more is more is more.
Yeah, exactly. And that again was one of the big messages last week, that we're going to be able to we need to crank out more. And that's the surprising answer I alluded to at the top of the podcast. Marketeers' lives are not getting simpler or even cheaper. Although the cost and time it takes to produce content, material, communications is being cut, sometimes dramatically, we're going to need to produce more of it at a higher standard and more frequently. We'll all also have to have plenty of sophisticated platforms for storing, publishing, tracking, which brings me to my fourth point, evolving. And this is where the loop comes full circle. You measure what worked, what didn't, and feed that back into the next round in real time. And again, we've always done that. We've always measured results, made adjustments. The difference is now it's in real time. You can do it in real time, changing it on the fly.
Wow.
So continuous evolution of material. Maybe researchers engage mostly on your explainer videos, while clinicians wanted to see more case studies. And you adapt, you refine, and you keep looping.
You know what? It actually reminds me of science in itself. Hypothesis, make an experiment, look at the results, and then iterate.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I think the loop is so powerful for life sciences. Marketing, it mirrors the way scientists already think and work today.
Okay, but tell me this. Isn't this just common sense? Express, tailor, amplify, evolve. Haven't good marketers been doing this all the time?
You're right, parts of it aren't new, but what HubSpot has done is package it into a clear, repeatable system that reflects how buyers actually behave today in a new AI-driven world. And in industries like life science, where credibility and trust are paramount, Loop isn't just common sense, it's survival.
Yeah. So third takeaway, you said every revolution destroys and creates, which means good news for some and bad news for the others. So give me the bad news first.
So routine marketing roles could vanish. Simple SEO, boilerplate content, repetitive analysis, simple websites or shop windows. The marketing world is getting more complex and marketers need to up their game considerably.
Wow. So copywriters everywhere should start retraining as plumbers or masseurs and hairdressers?
Well, not me, not anytime soon. But anyway, not quite, but because at the same time, what's going to happen is new roles will appear, new jobs, obviously. AI conductors, editors, strategists, trackers who know how to coax the right results from a machine.
Wow. So it's less about your job is gone and more like your job has changed shape.
Exactly. And so, use an analogy, think of photography. Kodak collapsed, Instagram exploded, and the photographic industry didn't die or go away. It transformed and multiplied. I mean, whoever predicted a job role called influencer?
Yeah, and if Bowie could reinvent himself 5 times from hippie to Ziggy Stardust to Aladdin Sane to Halloween Jack to the Thin White Duke, then we can surely manage one.
I'm always amazed at your ability to squeeze Bowie reference in somewhere. But
Yeah.
anyway, yes, you were right. But he was actually a huge visionary of the digital world we're now living in.
Mm. So the fourth point you made, brands must be more human, but also do more of everything. That sounds like a really cruel joke.
Again, a recurring theme I picked up on at Inbound 25 was how brands can avoid becoming homogenized in an AI driven landscape. If everyone has access to the same content engines that produce perfect material in record time,
Hmm.
how do you stand out? That's the reason d'etre of a brand standing out.
Hmm.
And the answer is by leaning into the things AI can't do, and namely being human, being physical, being experiential. But here's the paradox: brands will also have to do more of everything across more platforms at greater frequency and a higher quality to really get the eyes and ears of the LLMs. That means still creating great authoritative content, posting across a wider number of social platforms such as LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, Reddit, and more. Not just for human readers, but also for the LLM scraping content for authority signals. It means producing webinars, podcasts, live events, videos, collaborating with influencers, building up citations, and maintaining credibility across channels. Ensure the baseline, I think, has been raised.
Wow. Marketing budgets are going to be reconsidered. So more posts, more videos, more everything, but also more real?
Yeah, so my prediction is in a homogenized world where brands still need to stand out, they need to do it by doing real things that go to the heart of the brand. I think a great example of that is Sony Bravia's campaign from the early 2000s, a brilliant TV ad campaign for their televisions, with thousands of colored balls were sent bouncing down the streets of San Francisco.
Amazing.
It was visceral, unforgettable, impossible to fake because it was also filmed by all the residents of the streets who also posted films on it. So it was very real. That's what stands out in a world of commoditized digital content that is created by AI effects. do real stuff. And on that point, one of my little bugbears is fake AI voices. I detest them, but I'd much sooner have your voice, Rob, than with imperfections at all.
Well, thank you. I'll also take that as a compliment. But ironically, the more AI there is, the more we'll value the things AI can't do.
Yes, I think we're all still a little bit sort of happy with the effects of AI and playing with it as a toy and everything else. But I think it's pretty much getting to the point where if everything's the same, we've really got to do things which are different. So, as I say, live events, bold creative risks, stories grounded in reality,
And
going
podcast.
to come along pretty soon, and podcast,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, that's great. But look, Julian, I'm drawing the line at TikTok dances.
I can't see you doing any TikTok dances anytime soon, Rob. Don't worry.
Thanks. And finally, the one that makes agency owners squirm. Your point of they have to evolve or they will die.
Yes, I think rightly clients want more, faster, cheaper. And the old agency model, layers of overhead, slow delivery is already creaking. Many agencies, I think, will disappear. It's actually one of the reasons we created Up with a totally different business model.
So what kind of agencies will survive?
I think agencies are people that embrace AI as an amplifier, as a tool. They use it to strip out inefficiencies, speed up production, and leave the human energy for creativity, strategy, and client relationships.
So very much like the mammals after the great destruction by the meteor that fell on the Earth. The winners wouldn't necessarily be the biggest, but the most adaptable.
Exactly. Adaptable is everything.
So from Babbage's unbuilt machine to Lovelace's vision of a creative machine to Turing's learning machine, straight into Inbound 2025, the patterns, is it clear?
Yes, I think it is. Each revolution destabilizes, democratizes, and then creates. The lesson for marketeers, I think, is simple. Don't resist it. You can't resist it. It's a revolution. But adapt fast, ask better questions, humanize your brand. And if you're an agency owner, evolve your agency.
Yeah, don't be a Luddite. Really fascinating.
Luddite.
Yeah. So it looks like the AI revolution could free up us humans to be even more creative and imaginative. Now, if that's going to happen, that's what I would call the golden age of AI, that we have more time to think and to imagine and to dream. And maybe we should just keep a Beatles record handy to remind ourselves that revolutions can change the world for the better.
There's always a good reason for using a Beatles analogy in record. So very true. And as they said, you say you want a revolution.
Yeah, well, here it is. Welcome to the revolution. And as Gil Scott Heron said, it won't be televised, but it will happen very much in real time. So stay awake.
And it will be imagined into reality by people like Babbage, Lovelace, and Turing, those who dare to think big, bold, and different. Anyway, we've run out of time. Thanks for joining us, everyone, for this revolutionary episode.
And remember to always enjoy your science.
And always enjoy your marketing. Goodbye.
Goodbye. The Art of Marketing Science is produced by upthereeverywhere.com. The next edition will be with you shortly. Dunsky. Yeah, sorry, my wife. I mean, I have this thing on Do Not Disturb, but people in your favorites can get through anyway.
Yeah.
So I had to type to her at the time, "Do not ring me again." Crazy.
Who was that?
Ingrid.
Ugh. Wives.
Okay, try your best not to move in your chair when you're talking.
I'm trying not to. It's very squeaky.
Because what? Yes, the chair is squeaky. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are now recording. We're now live. Live on 5, Stubbs in England. Podcast number 5. He's checking the podcast volume. He's nodding his head. Julian, please say something.
Hello.
Say something more than just hello.
Welcome to the Art of Marketing Science. I